Hello and welcome to another edition of Artist Spotlight. I'm Vicki Landon, Administrator for Orange County's Office of Arts and Cultural Affairs, and I am here today with Kathleen Safi, who is the artist behind our newest Art in the Atrium exhibit, Flock and Field.
Yes.
So thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, it's an honor to be in the Atrium. Thank you so much, Vicki.
So I know you're a self-taught artist, but one thing that was really interesting to read about you is that you taught yourself how to do this work through a daily creation ritual. Can you talk to me about what got you started and how did you commit at such a level?
Right. Well, I've always loved art all my life, but didn't really give myself permission to do it. When my daughter went to preschool, I found myself with 2 hours a day that I could do what I wanted to, and I wanted to paint. So I started painting in around 2020, and I made that a dedicated practice where every day I just paint, even for 30 minutes a day. Painting small, painting frequently, I found that I learned the most that way, and from there I gave myself freedom to start to work larger.
I love that. I love that. 2 hours a day is a very precious amount of time, but you're
Right.
investing it well. You've said that a lot of your work is about finding beauty and meaning in ordinary moments.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about why that's important to you?
Well, I am right now a stay-at-home mom. I have a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Oh, good Lord.
And so I'm with them all the time. And part of motherhood is those ordinary moments. Some of my paintings reflect that community that I'm in and those moments that make our community. One painting in particular is called Gnat Catchers. And in that painting I have a bunch of different gnat catchers all around. And they're just little tiny gray, drab birds. You don't really notice them that much, but they have a really important role in the ecosystem where they will grab the little bugs and gnats all around. Without them though, it'd be a mess. And to me, that kind of reflects me and my mom friends who sometimes the little drab, unnoticed things that we do, making the bed or doing carpool, but they really help to keep the ecosystem of the family together.
That's great. I know, so you're living here, something that I was about to ask in the next question, which is I noticed when you post your works on social media, you include a lot of facts, either about the specific kind of bird or the garden that you're at or the landscape that you are. Do you know all of this or do you research it as part of the work?
Well, I do kind of find myself one of those people who, for some reason, whenever I'm walking around, I know the name of every plant. I think it's from my grandfather. He worked at the botanical gardens in Missouri, and from him I kind of gained that love of plants. And so whenever I move to a new place, I always make sure I get a native book, and I make sure I know everything that's around me. So it's one of the things I like to do is to slow down and notice the beauty that's around us. And then I include that in my own artwork and use those cool personalities and facts of the plants and animals around us to help shape the character of my own paintings.
What's something either interesting or surprising that you've learned while doing the research?
Well, actually, one of the things that I learned is that in Central Florida here, the birds actually act in a really unique way during the winter, where instead of staying with their like kind, they flock together in a group of different birds all together for the sake of their own security and protection. And so it kind of reminded me of us in Central Florida, all different kinds of people coming together, forming a beautiful community. And so I've used that theme a lot in my own paintings where I have different species of birds come together to make a new chosen flock.
I love that. I love a chosen flock. Now I know you've done line drawing, paper collage, acrylic work. You've done moving wooden sculptures called automata, right? So what inspires your use of different mediums, or do you find certain subject matters work better with other mediums? Talk to me about maybe what's your favorite to work with.
Well, Vicki, I think that you're kind of seeing myself as I'm constantly a student. I just am really entering into this field of painting and art and giving myself permission to explore it. So as I'm sharing those explorations with everybody. And it is true that some certain, like when I'm exploring birds and the floral environment around me, a lot of times I like to use collage because it helps to kind of bring that wildness in. I like to look at automata. It's a kind of a neat, just little brain teaser for me to try to figure out how to make these moving pieces come to life on my kitchen table with just the materials that I have.
Do you prefer working in sort of 2D versus 3D? Like, where are you finding yourself finding comfort today?
I think that for my own lifestyle right now, 2D is more, I can tuck it away later on when the family needs me. But yes, 3D is something interesting I'd like to explore more later on.
You've mentioned a little bit about the different subject matters that you have, and I did a deep dive on your Instagram, and if you go all the way back to the beginning of your Instagram gallery, there's a ton of floral work, like portraits of florals. Then it moves sort of into landscape, and then I noticed a few weeks later we had a big chicken thing. There's a lot of chicken work. So are you finding that, you sort of go through phases of things that interest you or fancy you at a different moment? Does your art do that, or is that that just part of the natural organic process of learning what you're doing?
Well, it's a little bit of something that I've forced myself to do, because I have found that in my own life, I tend to flit from subject to subject, thing to thing, interest to interest. And so I've forced myself to hone in on one subject and really explore it to its full depth so I could grow as an artist that way. One of the first series I did like that, I called it Marsha, 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 and I just did marshes, 100 marshes I challenged myself to do. And so that was one way, and it was kind of fascinating, because normally after 2 or 3 I would have said, that's fine, that's good. But having myself be forced to do that many, I kept exploring different ways of doing it, different colors of how to do it, and it really grew myself as an artist that way.
It sounds really methodical, right?
I guess so. Thinking about it is kind of funny, because I'm not a methodical person at all, but I forced myself and I did grow from that.
Now, in this collection here in Flock and Field, what was your sort of approach from a curatorial perspective? Like, which pieces are in here and which pieces are not? And why do we make that decision?
Well, I think that this actually all kind of grew organically from a project I did last year called Arts Fellowship Orlando. And I was really looking at community and using birds as a way to explore community during that time. And then from there, it kind of just grew on to be evolving other parts of our community. I take my kids out all the time to enjoy our parks here in Orlando, and so a lot of those parks will find a place in my artwork. There's one I did of Mead Gardens, and it's a little more wild and free, and that's because it's kind of symbolizes the way my kids can just let loose and go down those trails and explore and feel like they're some brave adventurer. And so I really wanted to capture that feeling there. I also use a lot of the Orlando wetlands in my artwork. It's nearby me in East Orlando, and I just love how, first of all, the bird community there is amazing, and also the community of photographers that it brings. You see people waiting in their cars for sunset, for sunrise to happen, so those gates open up, they can go out together and photograph. And I think it's a really cool place how our natural beauty is bringing people together.
That's great, a little collective of artists brought together by nature, right? I know some of your pieces, like you have a sandhill crane that's life-size, right? Then you've done some pieces that are itty-bitty. I saw tiny little portraits like juxtaposed next to a baby foot, right? So do you like working small? Do you like working big? Or has there been a piece that's particularly memorable because it was so small or because it was so big?
Right, well, I have to say that the sandhill crane piece is memorable to me because of its height and size. I found that canvas, it was actually given to me, and I said, I know just what I want to do with it. The sandhill cranes are a huge personality in our neighborhood, and there's one particular story I always remember is when my family of 4 was walking down the street, and then we look on the other side of the road across from us, and a family of 4 sandhill cranes was walking in perfect synchronization with us, parallel down the street. And something about seeing them there together as a little community, we all just looked and laughed and talked about it the whole time, and it kind of solidified us as our own community. We realized, hey, we're a little flock, we're like them. And so I really enjoyed making that sandhill crane in that large size to kind of memorialize that moment.
Totally.
And then oftentimes I will work really small too when I'm working in little series, just again, to stretch myself and to see what I can learn.
You've mentioned this sort of memorializing of moments, right? Of the Sandhill Crane family, or seeing your kids running around in a park and pretending to be adventurers. I know you do a lot of commissions, and the commissions that you do are often a really cherished memory of a certain special place or landscape. Do you remember the first commission you ever did, or one of your early ones?
I have to think back on an early one. I do have a favorite one I did though.
What's your favorite one?
Well, I have a family that went out to England, and you know how some people do RV trips? They instead rented a canal boat, and they took a canal boat trip all through England. Wow. And then they sent me a series of photos of all their favorite places, and I put them together into a landscape for them so they can always remember that moment. And it was so rewarding because they sent me a video of their kids walking into the house and saying, hey, that's the place, that's where we were. So that was just a really cool thing to see that we could make that moment special for the kids that way.
Kathleen, if somebody's watching this and they're like, I have a painting I need done, I have a commission, I'm really in love with the Sandhill piece, I want to buy it, where and how do people find you online?
Well, they can find me at my website, KathleenSafi.com, and also on Instagram, Kathleen Safi Art. I'm also on Facebook, Kathleen Safi Art.
Awesome. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for sharing your birds, your flowers, your story, and your joy with us. We're really excited to have you here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here in the Atrium. Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us on this edition of Artist Spotlight. We'll catch you next time.